Hey guys. I thought tonight I would tell y'all about the benefit of something that most people don't look at as a benefit, but it actually is helpful. So, we have learned that our most helpful feedback would be our negative feedback. And you might think that's crazy because nobody likes to get negative feedback, especially if you're on, say, Poshmark or um, eBay, especially. Like, it will slow your account down if you have negative feedback. But one of the best things about negative feedback is you are finding out where you have an issue that you need to take care of. And that's so much more helpful than somebody that says everything's fine and it's not fine. Because Will and I both are wanting to have top notch customer service. We want to make sure you get, an amazing product, usually a book or a game or a puzzle, from our shop. And we're wanting to make sure that it's done in such a way that it's excellent. Everything about it's excellent. And so we want to make sure that your packaging is great. We want to make sure your item arrives to you in great condition. And of course, a lot of the things that we're selling are antique items or vintage items, especially our books. And so because we're doing that, we want to make sure it arrives to you in great condition because books can be a very fragile thing. So one of the things I'm going to share in this video is pictures of various feedback that we got from other customers. One of the feedback things that we got was someone telling us this was one of our first magazine sales. And at the time, we did not realize just how truly rough on things the post office is. And so we mailed the magazine in a poly mailer, which is a plastic mailer, kind of similar to what you get maybe from Amazon. And that magazine was one that this guy was wanting to have graded. We didn't know that information. We just thought he was buying a cool magazine. He had asked us, he says, hey, make sure it's in cardboard. So we're like, okay, no problem. We will put cardboard on this magazine. So we literally put 2 pieces of cardboard inside there just to make it more sturdy. If you've shipped anything like that, then you would know that that was probably the dumbest thing we could have done. We had no clue. So what happened was we had a very disgruntled customer, and I'm going to try to put his response to us in this video. But he was very upset, understandably. He was no longer going to be able to use that magazine. He wrote us a pretty strongly worded letter, email saying that, that we did not do what he asked us to do, and how stupid are we that we didn't put this, tape it up, make it to where it's more sturdy. And of course, we had no clue. At the time, we had just gotten, my mom did a Storyworth book, which, just a side note, that's a great gift for somebody in your family if you're wanting to know your family's history, or just your parents' stories or your grandparents' stories. It's a great gift idea is to give them a Storyworth book and let them write your story. But anyway, we had just gotten in her book, and in that book, they had used this fold-over cardboard package that protected the edges. It protected every part of the book, and it wasn't a huge box that was going to cost us a whole lot in shipping. So what we did is we opened that box up all the way and figured out how we could make it. Because when I went online to try to find them, and just realizing how many different sizes of books we have, and like we would have to carry a massive assortment of boxes in order to purchase pre-made boxes for this. And so what we did is we got our we have, just little tools. Like we had like a little utility knife. I found this really cool box cutter. Matter of fact, I'll show you what it looks like because it's just cool. It's just a cool little tool. It's a box resizer. And sorry, it's a little bit dim over here. Let me get it. It's in Will's stash. Okay, so what we do is we use the cardboard, and I have videos of this of Will making special made boxes for this. But oh, this light. Anyway, it's this. Will's rough on them, and so I always have to buy him a new one every couple of months, just because he's so rough on them. But this one is an Omni brand, and it's just a traditional, utility knife. But then this is the cool part. So this right here, we actually have to push it out further. That's why the tape's there. But you just roll that little wheel against the cardboard, and it makes it to where it gives us a bendable fold on the cardboard, and it's super helpful. So then we can create a box for a children's book that's like very small, less than an inch thick. We can create a box for a set of dictionaries that are 6 inches thick. We can any weird, crazy shaped book, and we have tons of crazy shaped books. So we're able to create a box around that. So it was great timing for that guy. Of course, had we not seen that Storyworth book box, then we wouldn't have really known what to do about this. But it made us get better about shipping. And in the meantime, it also solved another issue of making sure that we weren't using a big box to ship a small book. And then we were having to use a lot of extra packing material to do that. So that solved a dilemma. Another thing, very shortly after that, like probably within 2 weeks, we had, let me fix this, driving me crazy. We had we had 2 small books that were paperbacks, and they were vintage. And of course, people buying vintage books, they're going to read them, and then they also are buying them, sometimes just to have that year, when it was printed. So we shipped these 2 books. We had learned that you needed to do the cardboard, so we'd fix that, but we weren't thinking that these are 2 different size books that are inside this cardboard, and they're going to New York, and they're rubbing together. So from New York to Louisiana is a pretty long trip for a book that's vintage and that's delicate. And so those books rubbed against each other all the way to New York, and they a lot of the page edges were just little tiny pieces were falling off of the book. So then we had to come up with another solution. And what we found was the easiest thing to do is there's these foam sleeves that you can purchase to, like if you're shipping plates, you can put them inside these foam sleeves, especially if you're like moving, it's like you slide them inside this little pocket, and it's very thin, but it keeps them separated, and we can tape each book individually up inside this foam sleeve where it's protected. And then we can put that protected book in with another book of a different size, and they're not going to damage each other. And then we ship them safely. And so that negative feedback, even though it, messes up the algorithm for eBay, and maybe some of our stuff doesn't get shown as often, that was really crucial information, because we could find out how we can be better at our job. Another negative, and I can't remember if this was a negative feedback. I think it was a neutral feedback. And sometimes eBay treats neutral feedbacks like it's negative. It just kind of slows your account down. They don't show your account as often, and so you don't have as many sales usually. So typically, Will and I will have anywhere from, I don't know, maybe on a slow day, 3 sales. On a great day, 10, 15 sales. Of course, there's other people that are, outselling us significantly. But when we're doing those sales and we have this neutral feedback, it slows us down. And so this lady ordered a book. It went out to, I think, maybe New Mexico. I want to say she was from Albuquerque. And so anyway, it goes out somewhere out west, and the book that she ordered, we had done there's a thing on eBay that you can do. You can click sell like item, and then we can make a new listing So we can find an item that's just like ours or as close as it can be, and then we click under the item it says sell an item like this. And so that's what we do. And so most of the time we fill out the information and we make it to where our information is matching what our item is. And then we just use as much of that listing as we can. So sometimes it saves you some time so you're not clicking every button of what, to fill in the details about your item. All that to say, we missed something really crucial. It said that it was a signed first edition copy, the one that we were borrowing, the listing that we were borrowing. So when we sent it out, of course, the person receives a book that is not a signed first edition copy. And they were pretty irritated, understandably. So this book was not a book that cost us a lot of money. We ended up just saying, hey, we're so sorry. We will refund you your money. Typically, when it's our fault that the listing is wrong, then we would need to send them shipping money to send our item back. And that's typically what you do. You send them a label for them to use. And so what happened is that we already knew that we had not spent a lot of money on that book. It was not a book that was going to necessarily be a high seller for us. And by the time we got that book back, after we'd already paid for shipping and reimbursed them their money, we weren't going to make any money on it. So we just told them, hey, go ahead and keep that book. We're so sorry. And we just left it at that. But that was really crucial information for us, because not only did we have to rectify a situation, but we had to get to where we're like, when we're reading those descriptions, we need to be extra careful. And that's happened a few other times where we've not paid attention to what the description was, and we maybe misidentify a book, or we say it's a month of a magazine that it's not. They're just different ways that if you're just not paying attention to what you're doing, if you're just kind of going on rote just behavior, then you're just not really thinking things through and reading carefully and making sure that you have, crossed all your T's and dotted your I's. And so that was a very good lesson for us. And then the final one that I recall is one that we did on Macari. And that was one of the first sales that we had on Macari. And we were actually selling 2 Kindles that somebody had donated to our youth group garage sale. So we put them on there, did not notice that on the computer, like maybe it was like, I don't know, like it was supposed to have so much storage. It didn't have the same amount of storage as the listing that we were using. So we weren't paying attention. And so this person is thinking he's getting a great deal on 2 Kindles, or 2, maybe, I think it was Kindles. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 2 electronic devices. And he's thinking he's going to get a great deal on it. And what he's getting is 2 devices that are in great condition, but they do not have the amount of storage on it that he was thinking he was going to get. And so he wrote a pretty, direct review of that. Of course, we messaged back and forth. We did everything we could in our power to fix it. On Macari, I'm not able to send a partial refund. I think that's one of the ones I can't do that. So he would have had to send them all the way back, and he didn't want to do that. So we just called it good. And I was, we're very apologetic. But then, we feel bad because, here we have a customer that feels like we lied about something. And that's how he put it in his thing, is that we lied about it. And I understand from his perspective that he thinks we purposefully did that. But of course we didn't. We just didn't realize that the listing that we had was inaccurate. And so regardless of how we were meaning it, we're not meaning to mess this up or put the wrong listing, it still caused him, to pay for something that he was pretty irritated about. So all that to say, it is hard to get negative feedback. It is hard on your business to get negative feedback. But in the long run, some of our best decisions have come from negative feedback, because it has totally changed how our business operated, and it was a good thing. And so if you are a customer Of course, you don't want to be hateful when you write your negative feedback. We've had some crazy customers that they damaged something and then lied about it and then wrote us negative, try to write negative feedback over something they did. And of course, you don't want to deal with that. But if you're a customer, it is really helpful to a business to hear if something wasn't exactly right. And not that you want to be nitpicky about something, but you do want to at least say, hey, here's an issue. Let me give you an opportunity to correct it. And if it's something that, we can't correct or whatever, if we need to refund you your whole purchase, whatever, that's great. We want to make it a good situation. But that negative feedback is so helpful because we were able to correct several things that could have really damaged our business in the long run. And thank goodness we got that negative feedback pretty early on in our journey so that we were able to fix it. So even though it's negative feedback, we had bad things, it wasn't great on our eBay account. It was so great for us to have that feedback because it totally changed our business. It changed how we treated things, and it's made us treat this more like a business versus us just selling something and just being like, oh well, whatever, we don't care, we'll never see these people or whatever. We want it to be great. We want to have great customer service. We want to have our customers to be very happy. And of course, right now, we are so blessed because on all of our selling sites, we have great feedback. We have 100% positive rating on eBay. We finally got that back. Your negative feedback and your neutral feedback will fall off after, I think, maybe 6 months or so, maybe a year. But we finally got it to where it's all positive feedback, which is great. That's what we want. So I would just encourage you, if you have negative feedback, don't look at it as something bad. Look at it as an opportunity, and it makes you excellent. And that's what we're all wanting to do, is we're wanting to be the best that we can possibly be in our jobs. So I would just encourage you to embrace that negative feedback and do everything you can to make your business excellent. So anyway, hope y'all have a great time. Bye.